Hi guys, this is Guille from Cooking from Spain. Today we're making croquetitas de pollo. If you make them right, the best croquetas of Spain. Look how beautiful. Definitely my favorite croquetas so far. Okay guys, ingredients for this amazing recipe that we're gonna make today. We're gonna make 3 different elaborations, okay? So, for the broth, we have here 2 kilos of different parts of the chicken. I have a little bit of like neck, the back of the chicken, a little bit of insides even, you know, everything is very welcome for a nice chicken broth. And then I have also a bunch of vegetables. This is of course pretty optional. I mean, not optional, but you can choose your own vegetables. Whatever you have in the fridge there, like already looking a little bit sad, just put it in, okay? In my case, I'm gonna use 6 carrots of 2 different colors because why not? I'm gonna use a chicory. This is really nice. This gives a really aromatic punch to the broth. I'm gonna use 3 onions and a little bit of leek. And I have also a couple of garlic cloves. And I have also a little bit of celery root. Okay, this is super aromatic and it fits super nice to the flavor of a chicken broth. In my broth, I like to add a little bit of Sichuan peppercorns and a little bit of tomato puree. Okay, this is really nice to put on the vegetables before roasting them in the oven to get them a nice Maillard reaction. Apart from the broth, we're gonna make a stew of the chicken. That's gonna be the chicken that later we're gonna put in the béchamel of the croquetas. And for the stew, I'm gonna use 3 chicken legs. I'm gonna use 3 carrots, 3 onions, 3 garlic cloves, and a bunch of aromatic herbs, okay? Directly fresh from the garden. I got a little bit of parsley, 1 rosemary, and a couple of, this is a really weird thyme that I haven't seen in my life, but it smells super powerful. Some aromatics are always good. So this is for the stew, for the broth, and also, of course, we're gonna make a basic and traditional bechamel, right? For that, we're gonna need milk, flour, butter, salt, and this is cornstarch, okay? You, as usual, are gonna have the quantities of everything in the description. But this bechamel today, we're gonna make it with a little bit of cornstarch because that's gonna help us not lose the form of the bechamel when it's cold. So we're gonna shape them good, and then when frying, they're gonna have the perfect texture. So we're gonna start with the broth, and for that, I guess you already know that we don't need something even. We just want to cut in different shapes the vegetables because we're gonna roast them, okay? And I'm gonna roast the vegetables in one tray and the chicken in another one. I have a lot of chicken and a lot of veggies and I want them all to roast properly, so I'm gonna use different trays. I don't need to peel them, okay, because it's just for a broth, but I did clean them. I don't want any dust or any sand or anything in my broth, of course. So like this. The garlic, I'm gonna just smash it and put it into my tray. The oven at 220 degrees and with the fan, okay? We want all that warm air to move all over the oven to roast everything as much as possible. A little bit of olive oil, like this is enough, and the tomato paste. Something like this is enough. With our hands that of course are clean, we're just gonna, okay, beautiful, perfect for the oven. And the same with the chicken that we're just gonna put here, separate it properly so it has a space. Little bit of olive oil, not too much, okay, because the chicken already has a lot of fat in the skin, but we do want a little bit of oil for those parts that has no fat. Okay, so this is ready to go to the oven. Okay, really important, no salt in this part of the recipe, okay? Never use salt when you're gonna make a broth. This is something that you can explain with the concept of osmosis. That is too complicated for now. Maybe I make another video explaining it, but just remember always that concept. Don't use salt if you want to bring flavor to a broth. We have the oven pretty warm and we're gonna put this inside here at least, let's say, 20 minutes, half an hour. I don't know, we will measure the time, but what we want is the things to be completely roasted, to get a super nice roasted chicken flavor in our broth. So we'll just give it time enough for that. While the things are in the oven, we're gonna cut the veggies for the stew. So the 3 onions, the 3 carrots, and the 3 garlic. We want small pieces for these veggies because we want to include them in the croquetas later. So this is the size that we want for the onions, okay? Cut them in half. Always important, okay, to make a little base. Therefore it's never gonna roll and it's easier to cut these slices. And with a few of slices, we can already transform it to sticks. We put them all a little bit even and we chop, chop, chop. Hey. I don't mind putting all the vegetables together because I'm gonna cook them all at the same time in the stew, okay? The garlic also put in little cubes. So, after 20 minutes, this looks already pretty good, okay? We want those beautiful roasting colors out there, but I'm gonna move it. I'm gonna move it a little bit and I'm gonna give it 10 more minutes, I think. And the chicken also looks pretty good, it smells even better. A little trick, okay? All those juices, I want them, of course, because they are pure flavor, but they are molesting me now in the oven because I want the chicken to roast, and those juices are steaming the thing and they are not letting them roast properly. So I just remove everything and already in the pot where I'm gonna make the chicken broth later. And this goes back in the oven 10 more minutes. This is almost ready, but I'm gonna use the last 5-10 minutes to put the peppercorns in this, okay? A teaspoon, more or less. There you go. Now, after 45 minutes, I think it was in total. Look how beautiful, full of Maillard reactions, slightly caramelized. So now we transfer all these things to a pot. And now we cover it with water, right? But I'm gonna use the water also to get every single inch of flavor that we have attached here. And look, it looks like this does nothing, but look how this water already has some color, right? Look, that's all the flavor that we do want to use. And here also. I may be exaggerating a little bit now, you know, but I'm a little bit obsessed with flavor and with Maillard reactions. Yeah, Maillard reactions. But look, like, I'm not even joking. This was water seconds ago, and now it already looks like a nice chicken broth, right? Like, I really mean it. I think this makes a difference. Cover this with water, okay, until the very top, and it already looks with this beautiful color. Imagine how this is gonna taste and smell after 1 hour and a half simmering slowly. And here I'm gonna use my beloved cast iron pot to start my stew. So in this case, in the stew, the salt is gonna help us to reach a nice Maillard reaction, okay? So we cover it with salt.
Pepper?
Okay, a little bit of pepper also.
Is it not with pepper usually?
You know, yeah, okay, a little bit of pepper. A little bit. That's enough, I would say. We put our chicken like this, and we don't move it. We just let it slowly toast. Make some pressure. At the end of the day, guys, it's literally all about Maillard reactions. That's all. Medium-high heat. It's not the maximum, but it's also not medium, a little bit more. And we let it around 2-3 minutes each side. Now, whenever it gets something like this, it's a nice moment to turn it back. One of the main important things when you're making a broth is to always remove all this foam that appears most likely at the beginning. Those are basically dirt, either from the veggies and from the meat itself, and we want to remove it. And I like to have another pot nearby with water, because then I can clean the spoon and go back. It's really important. Always remove that foam as soon as possible also. Okay, this. And here, see all this is what I mean. This is gold. for a stew. This is the base, and if you don't have that, the stew is just gonna be a normal stew. I'm also gonna rise the heat and let it stick a little bit also the vegetables. So we also toast them a little bit. Okay, and now you can see that this already starts simmering. So now is when I low the heat. Let's see here what's going on in here. High heat again, and I have a little bit of white wine. So now it's time to put the chicken back in. And now we put a little bit of the broth until it covers the whole thing. I'm gonna try, because now I do want this to have the right amount of salt. Something like 1, 2, and 3, and 4. I'm making here broth for a whole month, you know, we're not gonna use that much, but this, I think I'm gonna reduce it so I have like more like a concentrated thing that I can use whenever I want. And this now we want it at low heat. We're gonna let it steam for around 2 hours, more or less, and in 2 hours we check how's the meat. After half an hour stewing, I'm gonna remove the aromatics. After 1.5 hours, by the way, I put the lid on for the last hour more or less. What we're gonna do now is remove the chicken. We're gonna reduce all the liquid that we still have here until it's like a really powerful and delicious sauce. And while the chicken cools down a little bit, I'm gonna make the bechamel. So we're gonna just make a classic bechamel. You already know how this goes. But with the little difference that we're gonna use a little bit of cornstarch. What do? Of the liter of milk that we're gonna use, we use a little bit of cold milk on our cornstarch so we can dissolve it properly. Don't forget your liquid stew that is reducing, and at some point it's gonna get thick also and it can burn. The butter is melted. Now we go with the flour. We're gonna toast it. Move it all the time until it gets a little bit of a nice color. 5 minutes at least. See how it's slightly golden. Not white anymore, but golden. This is the moment to add our milk. Little by little, okay? I highly recommend to put the milk already warm, okay? It's way better, but if you do it little by little, you can also just... I wanna go slowly and make this dough that at the beginning looks like a dough, like a really solid dough, but at some point it takes the texture and the smoothness of a elegant bechamel. Our bechamel is looking beautiful. Our starch, we need to cook it until it reaches the right temperature for the starch to activate, and then it will get super thick. I have the salt here, by the way, but I'm gonna wait a little bit because this is really powerful, so I'm gonna fix the salt at the very last moment. This is gonna get a little bit thicker still, but now it's a good moment to drop our chicken flavor bomb in. Ideally, we want to cook our bechamel for another 10, 15, 20 minutes. The longer you cook the bechamel, the smoother and the more elegant the flavor is gonna be, okay? So we just like low the heat. You see little by little the bechamel gets thicker and looks more like a croqueta dough. On the meanwhile, I'm gonna try to clean this, like clean your hands and do it with your hands so you can feel, okay? Feel every single muscle. Okay, so all the chicken. I'm gonna put it back here to, first thing, make it, I need to pull it, you know, to make it smaller. And look, for example, that's why you need to go after the chicken a couple of times. More or less. And we cook this for a couple more minutes. Stirring all the time, because now the bechamel is at a point that is tricky. If you don't stir it, it's definitely gonna burn. It's really good. I'm gonna use a little bit more of salt. You know when the bechamel for croquetas is ready, when you can feel this, look. You can see how it looks like it actually, you could take, like, it separates from the pan. You know that effect? That's because the bechamel is already thick enough. And this is it. Cover it right away. And so this is ready to go to the fridge Next day, 3 different ways of shaping the croquetas, from easier to more complicated, but in my opinion, more aesthetic and beautiful. A little bit of egg, traditional breadcrumbs, mandatory, a little bit of salt in the egg. The first way, the easiest, we call this in Spanish croquetas vagas, the lazy croqueta. Why? Because I'm not even gonna shape them. I'm just gonna put a little bit of flour on my board. I'm gonna take this directly as it is. And as it is, I put it on my board and I do squares. And I'm just gonna put them here. And from here to my breadcrumbs. Because of the shape, I'm putting a little bit of flour on the board, but normally I don't like to use flour when coating my croquetas, okay? I know a lot of people do it, but in my case, I don't like it. And so look how fast we already have our first 3, and the next 3 are ready. That was one way of making croquetas. Now we have the classic one, that is with our hands. I highly recommend to use a little bit of olive oil. They don't stick to our hands and we get a nice round form, which is just you either make balls like this, and you have a perfectly rounded, beautiful croqueta, or you can also make a little bit of the classical shape, right? Whatever you prefer. You take portion. I like to make my croquetas of 2 to 3 bites. I don't like them when they are extremely small. We move it. Now the third method, the more difficult but with some practice, to me is my favorite because I don't have to make a mess with my hands and everything. 2 spoons of the same size, a little bit of oil. The technique is basically to grab more or less the size of 1 spoon and shape it with the other one. Look, I grab the spoons from here. If I grab them from here, I'm not gonna have control enough. So from here and from back to the front. And you do this a couple times and you shape a beautiful quenelle. It's a perfect rounded croqueta shape. Again, I take more or less. And also the nice thing that I like about this is that all the croquetas, they are almost the same size. That's also nice. I'm picking a couple of them to make now, and the rest I'm gonna freeze. 35 croquetas, different sizes and stuff, but just so you know, around 35, 40, 30, depending on how big you make them. We're gonna take this to the frying station. It's called in Vienna, eh? But anyway, we want the frying to be super fast. 1 minute, 1 minute and a half maximum, so they get super beautiful and golden, but they don't explode inside. Okay, 1 minute, 40 seconds, and this is enough. Now let's put them here. And we go back in. My favorite flavor of croqueta, and whenever you try this recipe, also yours.